remember being raised by my grandfather. He was such an amazing man. I was with him, you know, every single day of my life. Almost every one of my greatest memories was with my grandfather. 97, he was diagnosed with cancer. I remember a couple days before he died, he was actually at home before he got transferred to the hospital. I remember we were all at the hospital, and a bunch of the family were around us, and my grandfather turned to me. He goes, "Don't worry," he goes, "I took care of you my whole life." He goes, "When I die, I'll send you an angel." And I started laughing. I'm like, you know, what are you talking about? At this point, he was coherent. And me joking around, I go, you know, make sure she's shorter than me, has curly hair, blue eyes, and she can dance Spanish. Salsa. He ended up passing shortly after that, a couple days after that, which was probably one of the hardest experiences I've ever had to go through. It really brought me closer to my father. You know, he lost his father. He was more concerned about me, which was such a beautiful feeling. I think that was one of the only times that I've ever really felt closer to my father. So years later, I remember my grandmother was deteriorated, and my aunt came up and said, "You know, you were one of the closest people to your grandmother. Why don't you go say something?" I whispered in her ear. I said, "You know, everybody here is okay. We're all fine." I said, "You know, no needs you more than we do. You know, go be with him." And joking around, I said to her, I go, "But you know, for the love of God, tell him to hurry up and send his angel." She opened her eyes. She came up and kissed me. She let out a tear, and instantly she passed.
I never actually imagined in a million years that I would ever end up with someone like Anthony. I always told myself I would never date like some egotistical, like any type of European or Spanish guy, so I steered clear from that. Anthony, I felt, he thought he was like such a big shot. He, you know, rolled up in his nice car with like all his designer clothes and the way he was dressed. And I just hated all of that. I stayed with him because he really opened me up a lot. Anthony made me feel like I could be myself, where I was always like a pathological liar. When Anthony had his first anxiety attack, I thought he was totally copping out because we had gotten into a huge fight. He all of a sudden started shaking, and I thought, wow, this guy's seriously trying to get out of this by getting my sympathy for whatever the heck's going on right now. I didn't believe him. I didn't even know what anxiety was. Well, once I realized how badly the anxiety was affecting his life and what he needed around him, it took a lot out of me because I saw how much pain he was going through. And it was hard to see him having to suffer the way he was suffering. And I noticed that he needed different things. I started noticing patterns, and it was difficult to see him struggle through that. Anthony could be very moody and like kind of an asshole sometimes. It was hard because it would control him even though he was trying to control it, the anxiety. So it really like had him in a different state of mind. I don't want to say like a zombie because it wasn't anything like that, but it was definitely, you could see that he was kind of distant. But other people wouldn't notice. I would notice because, you know, I'm his wife. I could definitely see how people would misunderstand Anthony. He would come off, because of his needs, when he was going through what he was going through, people would think he was selfish or that he just cared about himself. They wouldn't understand. It was totally misunderstood. So when Anthony first opened up to me about the suicide attempt, it made me feel pretty terrible. It hurts to know that someone you love is going through those types of feelings and unhappiness. Anthony has changed a lot since when we first met to now. Even in the past 2 years, it's totally a different person. from even 2 years ago. How he's come through, and even just buying the house that we live in, never thought in a million years that we would even ever move out of a comfort zone. He's really, really good with the kids, whereas before I could see that he was very distant from us and disconnected. And now he's like great. He loves the kids, he loves spending time with them. He takes the time to be with them, whereas before it was very disconnected, as much as he wanted to be connected to them. And we are like a very, very strong family unit. When Anthony had anxiety, the kids really were a lot more standoffish. They didn't really understand. It almost seemed like something was like keeping them back from wanting to get close. You could really like sense it in the children. I'm actually really excited that he is doing this. Anthony really like has a lot to say, and he's gone through so much. I really feel like he's gonna have a lot to share, and people can learn from what he's gone through, because he's helped so many people. Almost on a weekly basis, there's somebody new coming and getting advice or him helping them out. And it's amazing. I'm so blessed to like have someone like that to learn from, to be honest. He really is an amazing person, amazing father, amazing husband. Somebody definitely answered my prayers up there, that I ended up with somebody like him.
It was a couple days later, I was at my friend's, the sliding door opened and Val coming out. And at the time I was actually dating a girl for like 4 years. I have never touched drugs in my life. I don't drink. I was so nervous that I actually drank, and I was nervous. My friend was married to Valerie's sister, so that's where the connection was there. Something drew us together. We were complete opposites. Something attracted me to her, and I could not, for the love of me, let that go. I was talking to my aunt, and I was upset because everybody was having dreams of my grandfather and calling me and telling me, and I was depressed. I'm like, I was the closest thing to him. What happened to me? My aunt said, you know, when you need him the most, he'll come to you. You know, I need you now. My grandfather, I'm talking out loud to my grandfather. It must have sounded psychotic, you know, and I fell asleep, and I had this dream. I was walking on the beach with the girl that I was actually dating, and we're walking down this beach, and I seen this white villa house right in the middle of the beach. It was really weird. I remember seeing my grandfather, and I went running to him. It was real. It was real. I smelt him. I can feel his, you know, the 5 o'clock shadow. He didn't say anything to me, but he said so much. I remember holding him, and he was saying, you know, I love you and I'm proud of you, and he was telling me he was okay. After he was telling me he was okay, I remember he kind of pushed me away like this, and in his mind, it was almost like telepathically, he said, you know who you're supposed to be, go be with her. But in my dream, I was with my ex-girlfriend, so I was mad about that. And I remember turning around, and it was Valerie. After about 6 months, we found out that her grandmother worked with my grandmother for a long time. Her grandfather worked with my great-grandfather, worked with my uncles, knew my grandfather. My uncle built their house. They had a gift from my baptism at their house. We went to the same elementary school together. I think more and more that I'm with Valerie, and the more time I spend with her, I feel that my connection with my grandfather's there. That's what helped with the suicide. I got a call from a friend of mine one night, and I was supposed to go meet up with them. And I remember going, and Valerie calling me off the hook. You know, where are you going? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm just going to meet my friend. She's like, I got a bad feeling. And I actually went back, and I was gonna break up with her. I'm like, I can't be with a girl like you. That night, my friend that I was going to see and talk to ended up getting ambushed with 6 other people, and they all got murdered. And it was one of the biggest, I guess, organized murder in Canadian history. She was my savior. So like I said, every day that has gone by, it's almost like my grandfather is in Valerie. And it's just amazing how the support I've had from her.